And welcome to another edition of the Defender Roundtable. I'm so excited to be with you once again, along with our Defender team, Terrence, Laura, and Aswad. Today we're talking all things Donald Trump. Yes, still, because this country, I am worried about where we're headed. I'm going to be optimistic though, but today we're talking about, did you see that mess that Donald Trump did? It seems like we're going to be saying that a lot. Trump has issued a new memorandum to carry out executive orders eliminating federal DEI programs, taking a shot at our civil rights, and just a host of other things. So we're going to talk about some of the issues that affect the Black community. And Terrence, let's start with you. What are some of the biggest concerns you have?
I mean, we're it's like, what concerns don't I have? I mean, right now, I think that, we have to be concerned about, his stance on DEI and how he's really just, first week in office. I mean, he is chipping away at, any kind of, civil rights, or not civil rights, but so much, just fair hiring practices, that exist, DEI programs that are in place. I mean, he's going to dismantle everything. I mean, because clearly he does not want us to succeed. I mean, and that's the mantra here. And so, we have to figure out a way to succeed anyways, because, we're not going anywhere. And he needs to understand that. I mean, and it doesn't bother me that he's coming out against us, because guess what? We didn't, as a whole, we didn't support him, and we don't support him because we don't support what he's about. But what I laugh at are the Jewish people who he's attacking now, the Hispanic folks who voted for this guy, who supported this guy. I mean, those are the people who I'm sitting there looking at right now, just kind of, I wouldn't say laughing, but really just looking at them like up the side of the head, like, what'd you think?
Yeah, I actually saw a post the other day from someone who was a big Trump supporter, and they had packed up and moved across the country only for their job to be canceled because of some of the executive orders. And he was crying and begging the president to help. And I'm like, well, that's not our fight. But, before we get to you, Swat, let me refresh for our audience what DEI is: diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's why it's necessary. Black people were legally segregated, denied jobs, housing, and the right to vote until the late 60s. Women couldn't even get a credit card on their own until 74. People with disabilities were locked out of the workplace until 1990. And gay and lesbian couples couldn't marry the people they loved until just 10 years ago. And so what DEI does is acknowledge our history to create a fairer and more inclusive workplace that benefits everyone. Now, I don't know that Trump even knows any of that, but his actions are definitely an attack on Black America. What say you, Aswad?
From 1619 to 1965, there was affirmative action for white people. In fact, affirmative action for white people has never stopped. That they have benefited from every loophole, every mountain placed before us. The GI Bill, we had Black folk who served in every single war, but were not allowed the benefits of the GI Bill, which is known as the Great Democratizer, because it moved so many people out of abject poverty into middle class. 12 million acres of farmland stolen. All these things happening to Black folk, yet they mad because we had at least a chance at equal opportunity. What's really pissing me off is the fact that this dude freed all those terrorist insurrectionists, and then as soon as they're out of jail, they're making posts, there's no more safe spaces. The dude that was wearing the horn hat when he was doing his insurrection part, he said, now it's time for us to go buy some MF guns. They're already ready to go out and wild on Black and brown people. But there is no accountability for folk who believe in the myth of white supremacy. We saw that when the dude that caught 34 felony convictions got no jail time, no fines, no nothing. And so it's just, that's what really disturbs me, that they just get a free pass to do whatever the hell they want.
People think that, well, this isn't really going to affect us, but we make up 13.7% of the U.S. population, but 19% of federal workers. So now nearly 400 100,000 Black people work for the federal government. Trump's DEI attack fits into larger plans to move those jobs out of Washington, slash the workforce, and that's going to leave thousands of Black people unemployed. Laura, let's have you weigh in.
Well, that right there is very important. Even to Aswad's point about the January 6th criminals. One actually went on, she had an interview, one person who was at the January 6th, who contributed and participated in that, who she said, look, yes, I did it, I was there, but now I'm saved. Trump, the whole MAGA situation is a cult. Yeah, I partake in it. And what Trump is doing right now is totally un-American. And just to have someone who participated at that time come and take accountability for her actions, and in letting everybody know, like, yeah, this is really a cult situation, is going to go way past a lot of people's heads. But that's by the way as well. But I would like to say first that Trump is leading in a criminal first like mindset and mentality. His messaging is all about attacking Black, brown, and immigrant communities. We clearly see that people who are in marginalized communities, LGBTQ, non-white people, Black people, brown people, have all been displeased in how he's in his messaging. Right now, it's just the executive orders are very clear. Whatever people thought that Trump is about to do in office, he will do. It's just all about what's next for us. And I don't know if we really have an idea of what that's going to look like. I'm not even going to lie. Some of those executive orders I thought was quite funny, because a lot of the people who did vote for Trump that I know somehow are impacted. And I didn't want to laugh. But I said, well, you get what you get. As sad as I have to say it. I wish them well, but this is just, what do you call it? This is just a little spice, a little sprinkle, in the big concoction that he's trying to season up for us in the next 4 years. So I don't know what's going to happen here.
You know what I find funny is that the MAGA crowd says if you're Black or a woman or a Black woman, you're a DEI hire. Your resume, your education is irrelevant to them. That's why they can call a 4-star general and decorated soldier a DEI hire while replacing him with someone who came from Fox News. They believe that the jobs that their fathers and foreparents got on merit. And we know that's a lie. America has a history of passing over more qualified people only to hire someone who looks like them. But Laura, you hit it on the head. We must educate our people, because what we don't want to do is spend the next 4 years in Trump trauma, fussing and complaining about everything he does every day, because he will do something every day. We got to educate our people, fight in the courts, the boardrooms, and the media when we can, and the streets when we must. We got to resist his efforts to erase us. Any last words, guys?
Just a little pushback on what Laura said. She said, his actions are very un-American. I would argue they're very American, very consistent with what this country has always done. This country, Dr. Greg Carr calls America the great criminal enterprise known as the United States, because of its mistreatment of Black people, Asians, Native Americans, indigenous people, Latinos, white folk. Weren't whole groups of white immigrants coming over. They were mistreated until they were able to join the quote unquote white group. And so this country has a long history of supporting criminal enterprises. And that just leads me to this last thing. Trump pardoned this dude named Ross Ulbricht, who was a creator of this dark web Silk Road called Silk Road. And it is known as the biggest criminal marketplace on the internet, where, if you need some nefarious stuff done, that's where you went. This dude was thrown under the jail, and Trump pardoned him, but that is par and course for who Trump is.
Anybody else?
I just, I look at this and I think at some point, even some of his biggest supporters, you know, who are middle class folks, because that's what I never understood is the middle class white people who supported this guy, because as I've told him, I mean, time and time again, he's not looking out for you, but he's using you, you know, right now for your expedience. But I mean, but once he's done with that and he's gotten where he wants to get, and just watch, I mean, these tariffs and prices that are about to go out just go berserk. I mean, they're not going to be, I mean, they're colorblind. I mean, so trust me, we're not going to be the only ones affected. If you're middle class, I mean, people will complain about paying for $5 for eggs. Wait until you're paying 20. Wait until you're paying, you know, $10 a gallon for gas. I mean, you know, this is going to affect us all. And so at some point, I'm telling you, we are going to become, you know, back intertwined in this, and we are all going to struggle. And I think some of the people who supported his ass are going to, you know, at some point realize that they made a big mistake, and they're going to have to admit it. And I'm looking forward to that day.
But Trump voters have already said, whatever comes their way, comes their way. As long as Black people are feeling it worse, they're cool with it. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't know.
Well, that's pure ignorance. That's ignorance. I mean, you know,
that's
what
we're dealing with.
But when your paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to go, I don't care what color you are, that's going to hurt you. And at some point, you're going to realize, and that's why these midterm elections are going to be huge.
Yep.
And it's gonna hurt because they were already complaining about that now. And that was the language that Trump was using to get him in office anyway, like pulling on their heartstrings and their wallets and their, you know, and their fears. And so if you're hurt, your pockets are hurting now, and then we get to midterm and it ends up being crazy that you can't afford nothing. What are you gonna do to Trump? They're gonna cry. He's not gonna care.
No,
as long as his oligarchs are good and his billionaires are good, why does he care?
But that's why it's going to be so important to get a Congress that will stand up to his ass. I mean, you know, and right now we don't have that. We don't have that in either house, and we don't have that in the Supreme Court right now. And so we have to, you know, like be vigilant about just making sure that we flip those houses come to midterm. I mean, so that at least we have some resistance. We can push back on some of this craziness, even though, like, as we see, he'll cut any corner and every corner to get his way. But at least if we have some stuff in place, I think, you know, we can limit some of the damage that he's doing and is planning to do.
Well, again, we'll be able to have this discussion for the next 4 years because we will always have material. We hope you enjoyed this discussion. Check out more about Trump trauma on DefenderNetwork.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and support Defender journalism with a donation or sign up for the Defender newsletter on our website. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.